Can the ballot box and your vote be made more secure? Chris Thomas is a strategist at Tenable Network Security and a cybersecurity expert. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the main question is, how vulnerable are electronic voting machines to hackers, and what can be done to protect them?
The machines themselves physically have been shown to be very vulnerable. The benefit or the saving grace there is that they're usually not connected to the internet and that they require physical access to the machine to cause any problems.
That's the other thing, because it sounds like, the internet itself is a huge source of vulnerability. So is the main threat here from the internet in any form, or is it just at the voting booth?
Well, if the machines are not connected to the internet, then it's very difficult for an outside intruder to attack multiple machines at one time. The fact that these machines require physical access to cause harm helps to limit the possibility that there's any nefarious activity going on.
Because if something were to happen that would have an effect on the outcome in a large way, it would have to happen at each individual location in hundreds or maybe thousands of places.
Right. There's over 9,000 jurisdictions, all that use different equipment, and trying to sway a national election would require compromise of several hundred or thousands of machines. Having to do each machine individually makes it much more difficult to accomplish that task.
All the same, a lot of localities have said they don't have the resources to try to make sure that they're totally secure. So should there be federal oversight of voting?
Well, there already are federal government agencies available to local jurisdictions, such as the Election Assistance Commission, the Department of Homeland Security, who offer assistance to local jurisdictions to help certify their systems. Whether or not election infrastructure should be categorized as critical infrastructure, which is what some experts are calling for now, that's the question that we're facing at the moment.
What happens if they are categorized as critical infrastructure?
That would basically require local jurisdictions to have more reporting, and it may require... It depends on how the categorization comes out. And there's a lot of questions that still haven't been answered yet.
There's also a lot of different ways to vote. There's optical scans, punch cards, paper ballots. Does there need to be a unified way, or would that actually increase vulnerability?
I think if we went with a one single method nationwide, that might increase issues, because then we have one thing that an attacker can study. Right now we have over 9,000 jurisdictions, all with different types of equipment, and that sort of helps promote the resilience of our electoral system.
So how overall do we make the system safer going forward?
Well, unfortunately, we only talk about this issue like once every 4 or 8 years. So I think starting on November 9th, we really need to have a strong national conversation about what we're going to do with our voting systems so that the next election we don't have the same issue.
Last question. When it comes to that Tuesday night, we'll be counting down, watching the results come in hour by hour. How will we know if there's been some nefarious influence in the outcome?
Because of the fact that our election is distributed, it's very difficult to have an attacker cause a large number of votes that are not accurate. We'll know.
We'll know. You say it'll be pretty clear.
It'll be pretty clear. It'll be difficult to have a bad vote count that's not somebody doesn't know about. Notice.
Chris, thanks for joining us. You'll have a busy night Tuesday, I imagine.
Yes,
Chris Thomas, thank you so much. Now here's a look at what's making news as we head into a new week on the money. Steady hiring in the U.S. economy. 161,000 new jobs were created last month, according to the Labor Department, slightly below expectations. Average hourly wages increased by 0.4%.